Today is the 10th of July, 2010. We're at the home of Armond Brown, and this is part two of the interview we're doing with Armond. Armond, when we left off the last time, you spoke about some of your experiences during World War II, and there was some information you had left out that you decided you wanted to add to the interview.
I don't have my notes with me, so what I think that I'll do is answer any questions that you ask me, and I'll have to go back and look at the tape a second time with my daughter, and then we will continue, and I'll have the notes. I don't want to say what happened to the last ones.
Okay. All right. Let's start with your overseas tour. Now, when and where did you leave to go overseas?
We thought we were going over to Germany because we left from New Jersey. We shipped out of New Jersey, and the next thing that I knew, I'd been through Panama twice, and I could see Panama coming up. And I said, Charlie Weir is one of them. The other one would be God, I can't think of his name. An insurance man from Glens Falls, and then there was Sullivan. His father had a truck that moved furniture, and Sullivan was a real big guy. So I told him, I said, gee, we're not going to Germany with those blue-eyed blondes. We're going to Japan, and it's not over yet. So
now, when was that?
God, I can't.
Approximately. Was this in 1944 or 1945?
I would say that was 1944 definitely. Yeah.
Now you mentioned you had gone through the Panama Canal before.
I was in the Merchant Marines then.
All right.
I was what they call a snipe. I worked below the waterline, and anybody that worked below the waterline, I started as a fireman, a water tender, and only two of us wound up being junior engineers, and that would be Richard White and Armond Brown, and they moved us topside when we were going over to in the Pacific.
Now, when did you go into the Merchant Marine?
I went into the Merchant Marines in 1943, I guess.
Okay.
And I left. I was young, but I was making army tanks, and they said that I could not go. So I went to, and I think I told this on the tape before, that I went to Draft Board 364 over in Corinth, and I told the girl definitely that I wanted to go in the service. I did not want to stay here and let I had two older brothers already in, and it was getting close to where my younger brothers was going to be eligible, and I said, I'm not going to let that happen. That's when she told me to write her name, of which I did, and she gave me a blank paper with her name on the bottom, and when I got down there I wrote her name, but I kept the name so that I'd remember how to write her name. And I think there was 8 of us that went down, 7 at least. Glenn Green, Armond Brown, Earl Cooney, one of the from Thompson, New York. I can't think of his name. But anyhow, there were 7 of us went down, and I was the only one that left.
Now you went down to New York City?
Yeah.
And
I wound up on the ship the next morning.
Now, do you recall the name of the ship?
Yeah. There was 2 of them. USMS TS, American Navigator, and I can't think of the other one's name, but they were sister ships. They were breaking us in to be Merchant Marine. And I had enough credit from taking the test, they made me a white cap. That all of the ones that we trained them, and I hadn't been in before, but I had a pretty good background living on the Hudson River and being on a lot of boats.
Now, what did it mean by being a white cap?
A white cap, that you were a teacher, the regular, I'd say dirty gray, we were teaching them.
Okay, and what were you teaching?
My specialty was engine room. So I was teaching them fireman, water tender, and oiler. And I wasn't a junior engineer yet, but when we went the third trip through Panama, Whitey and I were the only two. We slept topside. We used to sleep down water level, and then when we went to work, we were always below the water level.
Now, how was that ship powered? Was it powered by diesel or
No,
steam?
It was powered by. We had Scotch boilers, so yeah, it would have to be diesel. Fire cones. There was four of them in the engine room, and it took both sides. In the engine room, there'd be at least three on duty at once, and sometimes four.
Now, were you being down inside that engine room? Were you exposed to asbestos or anything?
Yeah, we changed all of the packing glands and the reciprocating pumps, and both above and below was asbestos packing, in the pumps especially.
Now, has that asbestos affected your health at all?
Oh yeah, yeah, I have asbestos lung.
Okay.
Yeah, and the service, VA already knows that. And I got one check from Luxembourg and Switzer and something else out of New York City. I got a check for $500, and I think they got a check probably for the same.
If you don't mind me asking, have you applied for any disability through the Veterans Administration because of that?
They told me I was in 5 different hospitals. First, aboard that ship that I told you, I was sick for a week down in sick bay. It wasn't from riding on the water. I had caught an awful cold, and I don't know where I got it, but anyhow, it lasted well over a week. And the first food that I ate that tastes good, and it was one of the cooks that brought it to me, he brought me a pear. And I'll tell you, that made my day. I hadn't eaten for 2 or 3 days, maybe even more, I don't remember. But then I was also, I got to remember, when we come in, Chesapeake Bay, below Chesapeake Bay there was a hospital. One of our boilers flew up. One of our officers, I'm looking down through the grates, and he had steam. A 3/8 steam line had broken, and it took the flesh right off his leg. I can't remember what he was, a lieutenant, but I can't remember. And Herbie Bartels was a chief, and I picked up the phone and grabbed it, and I'm going to call Herbie. But meanwhile, I run up the stack, and there's another pipe that you can talk through. I don't know how we did it, but I do. It's a long time ago. But I said, Herbert, I'm blind. When I opened the stack, all of the carbon flew in both eyes. So, and I said, the officer's down. He's trying to get up. He's crawling. He says, I am on my way, Brownie. So he come down. I couldn't see what happened to you after I got the carbon. So the next thing I know, I'm on the captain's launch, and Herbert and one of the SPs took me to Aberdeen, I think it is. It's a Marine hospital, and there was a line of guys. So Herbert says to me, Brownie, we're going to be here all day. I'm not going to stay. He says, there's a line of guys here. Well, the ship had already radioed the hospital, and they brought me to the front of the line. And I was being operated on within less than an hour. From when and this eye, I had to wear a patch for about I don't know, maybe 2 months, I don't know, maybe a month. maybe a week. No, it wasn't more than a week because they sent me home for a week. And this eye, I could see out of.
Uh-huh.
My right eye. But they took all the carbon out, however they did it. But I was out of the operating room. Then I was in, when I was in that was in the Merchant Marines.
Yeah.
So I was down at sick bay. I went, that's the only 2 times that I was really in the Merchant Marines that I can remember right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to look at my notes and I don't have them.
Now, how much time did you spend in the Merchant Marine?
I spent about 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah.
And
It had to be 2 years.
And did you work both sides of
Yeah.
the continent? I mean, did you go to the Pacific and Atlantic?
Yes, I went to Atlantic, Pacific, and one time when we were going to go, I don't know what was going on, but I think it was some kind of invasion.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a hot burn, and we went just almost to Bermuda, and we limped. They said we're limping back home.
Mm-hmm.
So I was lucky there.
Now, what were you carrying aboard ship most of the time? Was it cargo?
We had a machine shop where we could help repair. We had, God only knows what they had in a. I wasn't a part of that because I was down in, I don't know what the hell they carried in the different compartments.
Mm-hmm. And how big was the crew on the ship?
Oh God, that's a good question. Pretty big. You had cooks. You had, I don't know what they call them. They catered to the officers, you know,
Mm-hmm.
carried their food. You had guys that could work in the machine shop. In fact, I worked in the machine shop. I made a mariner's wheel and put my picture in it and sent it to my girlfriend.
Oh.
And I sent another thing to one of the girls that I worked with. I forget what that is, but it's a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
I could go get that because she called me one time and said, if you ever want that, come and get it.
Now, did you carry any kind of armament aboard?
Oh yeah, we had a 3-inch gun on the front. If you want to cut that, I'll go get a shell and show you.
Yeah, okay. Let me just stop it. What is that?
This is the length. Wait a minute, I'll get the tape measure and measure it.
Oh, that's all right.
All right. This was on the bow
Uh-huh.
of the ship. And the main deck, just ahead of where we had the galley. And right up over that was the captain's bridge.
Uh-huh.
I got a drawing of that ship, or a carved, I started to carve the ship up. I even had the guns
Uh-huh.
that was on the stacks, but the kids they played with it.
Yeah.
But I've got the ship in the cellar, I can get that too.
Oh, that's all right. That's a pretty good sized shell.
Oh, it depends what they were using.
Yeah.
If they were using what was in the nose piece,
Uh-huh.
it all depended what they had.
Now, were you ever under attack at all?
Not that I remember. They always the sub was following us.
Uh-huh.
But that's the crew. And when you're working in the engine room, the closest thing, one of our own ships in the Chesapeake Bay, a Navy ship challenged our ship.
Uh-huh.
So it must have been a bunch of young guys, I
Yeah.
think.
You can set that down if you like.
Okay. Yeah, I brought quite a few of them home. We spent them, but we practiced, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wasn't no part of that because all of my business was in the engine room.
Yeah.
And based on that they thought that I was pretty good, evidently,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't spend any time training. I spent time training other people because I knew so much about engines and stuff from being on the Hudson River.
Now, why did you end up leaving the Merchant Marine?
It's a good question. Oh, our ship went to dry dock, and Whitey stayed right at my house for about a month.
Mm-hmm.
That's the guy that I'm telling, Richard White from Boston. buddied around with my brother. I had a girlfriend, and I buddied around with my girlfriend.
Uh-huh.
But one day he said, Brownie, I'm out of here. But I think he went back to New York and got on another ship. Because he never called me. Never. I would like to somehow meet him, write to him.
Yeah.
But, you know, we're old now, and I'm lucky if he's alive.
Yeah.
And he was a big boy.
Mm-hmm.
My father got him aside. And he said, Armond is a small guy. Armond is a small guy. Would you watch over him? He said, Mr. Brown, you don't know your son. He don't need nobody watching over him. It made me feel good.
Yeah.
That my brother, my kid brother, told me because he heard the conversation.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. That made me feel good, but I never mentioned it to him.
Yeah. So you ended up leaving the Merchant Marine,
Uh-huh.
and then you went into the Army?
Well, I wasn't even home, and they called my mother, and they found out that I could shoot good because off Tijuana and Ensenada, we had some, while I was in the Merchant Marines, we had some guys over the side painting and redoing the ship, keeping it in shape. And this was when I was in the Merchant Marines. And we're anchored offshore, and I can hear them down in the arm room. I said, what the hell are they doing? So I went topside to see. And sure enough, they were going to shoot, or maybe did, if I remember right. And they said, can you get them, Brownie? I said, you want to believe it? And I did. I shot them. I shot one shark, and there was twice as many there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and the guys that were painting wouldn't go over the side. Not until we moved the hell out of there, and we did.
Oh.
But that's up to them, and it's up to, that's not my bag of tea. Mine was in the engine room.
Yeah.
So, no, I had a lot of fun experiences.
Mm-hmm. So when did you go into the Army?
As soon as I was on the way home, and my mother said to me, I don't think you're going to have any time here, Armond. They want you to report immediately to Camp Dix. I said, immediately. But I took a week home, and then I went right down.
Mm-hmm. And they took you right into the Army?
Oh, I was gone. I was in Fort McClellan the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Alabama.
Now, did you have to go through basic training?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, did we get through basic training, yeah. Yeah. It was tough. There was a lot of stories. Maybe I did tell a story to you already about the guy that we were jumping on each other's feet. They tell you jump on each other's feet, and then you were in pits,
Uh-huh.
and you counted off. 1, 2, you know. And the odd numbers would get with the even numbers, and you'd face each other. Well, I had gone home with, I think I told you this, with Shellnut, and I wasn't about to jump on his feet. You know, he was a little short guy. So the guy up in the cadre stopped the music, and he said, Brownie. I said, jump on his feet. Now, did I tell you this before?
I don't recall.
But anyhow, I wound up and I says, you know, this music started again. He stopped it. He says, if you don't jump on his feet, he says, I'm coming down there. I said, Mouth, M-O-U-T-H, Mouth, come on down. I'll jump on your feet. He wasn't there 2 seconds, and he was on his back. I hammered him. That's a fact. And the next time we were down in the pits, all the guys, different ones from different pits, hey, go jump on Brownie's feet. So the next thing I know, that up comes a guy, he drove over himself. He was from Scotland. I didn't even know he was in Fort McClellan. He was a truck driver. He had 3 brothers. One of them, I think, was a minister. Oh, God, I got to think of his name. And I had that on that paper, too.
Mm-hmm.
But anyhow, he lives right by the monument. At Scotland Monument, there's one house, and the second house down, it's a Polish name. It's not Lewandowski. I drew a tavern for Lewandowski when I come home. His wife was lived in the old Villa Bank, barbershop, Plushko's barbershop.
Mhm.
They had two sons that went in a service in the Second World War. I think they were in the Air Corps. They may not have come home.
Okay. So you were down at Fort McClellan. You finished basic,
Yeah.
and where did you go from there?
Well, I want to get back to this. What this guy did that I hammered. He went down, and this truck driver from Scowell that I started to tell you, he come up and he says, "Brownie, are you out of your mind?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "You put a note down on the main. We had A, B, and C company. A company I was in, mostly guys my size,
Mhm.
not big guys. Next size a little bit bigger, and then C company was all big guys. So this guy that I creamed went down there and put us that I could lick anybody and sign my name in that company. So up comes this truck driver that I know from Scoville, and I will give you his name on the next tape because I can't think of it. So he comes up and he says, "Brownie, this guy's a big guy. He's going to kill you." And I said, "What?" He said, "You got your name on the bulletin board. You can lick anybody in our company." And I seen the light right away. I said, "Well, I know where that come from." He says, "You're not coming down Saturday and fight, are you?" I said, "You bet your life, yeah, I am." He said, "Brownie, he's going to kill you. He's twice your size." I said, "I don't think so. Tell you what, you tell them just what you told me, and you bet all the money that you can on me. And if I lose, I'll pay you." So I went down, and the first round I took it easy. I felt him out, and I boxed. And there's a lot to boxing that people don't realize. When you're hitting a punching bag, hit with your elbow, this fist, that fist, your elbow, back the other way. And that's where and if you get in the ring and you're fast, you do the same thing to the other guy's chin.
Mhm.
And sometimes with the back of the hand, that's illegal. So I got in the ring with him and I felt him out and I said, I draw him up and make believe I'm going to hit him in the head, and I bring my hand down and give him a kidney punch. And then I do the other way on this hand, down. So I got so I was tattooing him pretty good. And I was knocking the wind out of him. I could tell. I can tell. You can tell. You know, the guy's eyes will get glassy. That's one thing. Then I tie him up. And the first round, and I said to him, the next round, I just took it easy on you. The next round, I'm going to hurt you. And I tried to hurt him. Don't think I didn't. So the round's almost over, and I tied him up. And I said, now I'm going to surprise you. I'm going to knock your, and he wasn't fat, I'm going to knock your fat ass out in front of all your buddies. And I pushed him away at the end of the round. He wouldn't answer the bell. He wouldn't come out in the third round.
Wow.
Up comes, can't think of his name, and he used a four-letter word. He said, "Where did you learn to fight like that?" I said, "My father, my uncle, and I can't think of his name either. It sounds like Billings, but it isn't Billings. He was an Italian guy that taught all the kids in high school to fight. I fought all the way through high school, never lost, nor neither did any of my brothers, because we had an uncle who was a professional fighter, and we had my father who was a wrestler, and we had Leo Brown who was a cousin. You know, that's all we did when we were kids, other than peddle newspapers, magazines, and work in people's gardens. And I worked with my grandfather especially. That's why that trophy was left to me. Yeah. So, I don't know. I had one hell of a ride in life. Christ don't want me and the devil's scared of me. I'll live forever.
Okay. Now, where did you go after Fort McClellan?
Right to New Jersey. right to New Jersey to get on a ship.
Mm-hmm.
And at that night we slept in I don't know where the hell, it was right on the shoreline we were. And guys went out and got drunk.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't, I went to bed. And one of the guys, I'm not going to put in this because he's a friend of mine and he's still alive. He went out and some guy creamed him. He was giving him a pee call, you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't do that. Especially if guys are sleeping, you don't wake up. I know it, I got up and I stopped the fight. He was going to get pounded, he'd been drinking. And the other guy went out and got soused. No, I stopped a lot of fights in the service.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of fights. And I fought all the way over on the ship.
What?
And I'd been over before, and I passed the 180th Meridian line. And when I didn't have to take that, like the rest of them,
Yeah.
King Neptune's Court,
Yeah.
I had to give it.
You had your card.
Yeah. Oh, I'll tell you. Do you want to know some of the things that they did? They'd take a mop, they'd spin the mop and put it over the head, and a guy would be sitting there with a wash tub full of garbage, and they'd make him get on their knees, and they'd tell him when the king says dip, you got to stick your head. I got some pictures of that. It's too good to believe.
Uh-huh.
But I sat on the mast taking pictures because I'd been over the 180th, the equator, you name them.
Mm-hmm. Now, where was the ship headed for?
Well, our ship,
Yeah.
well, we were gonna, if they hadn't dropped the atomic bomb, we were the ones that were gonna go in because my outfit was all expert shots, every one of them, 12 of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I was always, the thing is, got me, I was supposed to get my sergeant stripes, and that would be in the Pentagon.
Uh-huh.
Or I'm going to try to get to, I went to Keio University to study the Zabatsu system. And that's got to be in West Point, because all of them except one was West Point teachers. And then the other one taught me the Zabatsu system, which is the same as General Motors and the people like that, the 5 wealthy landowners.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the Zabatsu system was. You know, I forget the names now, but I had to, and when I come back, I taught 4.2 mortar. I taught, I give a talk, and I was the head of the theater. I give a talk in the theater to the guys. We went looking for, when I was in the Army, we went looking for airplanes that might have been shot down by Mount Fuji.
Uh-huh.
And it was a guy by the name of, these were different names than I gave you the last time. Smur and Gresley from Indiana, and Armond Brown. We were all corporals.
And you were
And we
there,
were up for radio, we were up to get
Sergeant?
technical sergeant, yeah. And we found an airplane. We found one that was tore all the hell apart.
Was it an American plane?
Oh yeah. So I'm looking around and I said to Smur and Gresley, let's go up on the hill. Let's go up there. There's a farmhouse up there. So we got talking to a guy that knew a little bit of English, not a lot, but he knew a little bit. But I got a feeling that they took prisoners. Well, I said, what happened to them guys? Airplane, GI, pilot, fly, went through the whole bit. And he pointed to a tree. How many? Well, he told me, but I couldn't understand that much Japanese then.
Mm-hmm.
See, Anune, doi chashimashita, aso, that's Japanese. Nanji desu ka? And all such as that. Well, you learn it from being about the guys that come back home and tell you about their girlfriend stories.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I should put it on there, I never had sex in Japan. 1946, Christmas Eve, I brought all my men, my squad, because I knew they'd been out before, But I had the 519 MPs test every one of them girls, except Miyoko. The girl began to sing to me, "You virgin boy, you virgin." She had all the guys singing to me. And I was, but I didn't want that known. You know, I was embarrassed to tears. So one of the guys, I may have told you on the other tape, from Corinth, New York, she offered to pay me 50 yen. And this kid from Corinth, I'm not going to give his name, said, "I'll take that offer." He took that offer. She's the only one they didn't expect, and he got the clap. Now that's on there, but they don't know who it is. So it paid me never to go in. I used to kick them out of the, we used to call it the Zoski station in Kamada. They'd come in and pick up the guys and take them. Or they wouldn't do even better than that. There was an old building that was shelled out. They used to take them down in there. I knew that, but I wasn't about cornucopia. They used to dance with them and then go. That cornucopia was something. I used to go there and kick them out. My squad. I say me. I was squad leader. I made my men do the dirty work. And if there was anything that was going to be dangerous, they knew me. They knew me like the back of their hand. I'm laying in a sack one night, and we're in the old bicycle factory that Doolittle saved just for the 82nd. He saved buildings, Heather and Jan, 27th Infantry. They had a building. He leveled the place from Tokyo to Yokohama. In I started to tell you something that was important. Damn it! What the hell was I going to say? It was about the building that Doolittle left up. It was an old bicycle factory, and we trained in that every day. And I had Japanese challenge me. I got stabbed in this wrist in the motor pool. They fired the guy, but Danny was a little guy that worked for me only. He used to take and get my clothes washed, and I'd pay him to do it, and I'd give him stuff when my mother sent me a package. He told me, he says, when they brought him out after he stabbed me, I hammered him. I did. And I hammered him good. Enough so they carried him to the front guard, main guard. And Danny walked with him and he said, "I'll get even with them guys." And we got poisoned. And I'll bet 2-1 he was back of it. We were poisoned. I asked the girl, they brought me to I drove people all day long to 42nd Annex Hospital. I may have put that on the tape before. If not, it should have been on there. And when I come home, the last one, it was raining, and it was around, I'd say 6:30, 7 o'clock, I'm guessing. So out comes the lieutenant, the doctor, and he said, "Brownie, you got to take me." Do you remember me saying this before?
I think so. Yep.
Well, then there's no sense of repeating it, because when he wanted to get in the back of that ambulance, I said, "You get in the front," because I knew by the time I got to the hospital he was going to be like the rest, and I was right. But the only thing that surprised me is I wake up 7 to 8 days later, and a nurse is sitting there, and she says, "You got to give me your mother's address. You won't give it to me. I know you got a brother or sister," and she named them. And how the hell? But I passed out again. And I looked over, and if that was the doctor, he had died because they had the sheet over his head. But I want to find out how many of them died that I knew.
Did you ever find out what kind of poison?
No, the Red Cross nurse didn't tell me. One of the other nurses, they used to call her Bird Legs. She was a beautiful girl, but she had legs like a broomstick, you know. And that made me mad when they call her that because she was very good.
Mhm.
I asked her, I said, what the hell happened? Our outfit, they said we had you get it mostly from in a farm where the cow's urine gets into your water well. Diphtheria, whatever. Well, it would be diphtheria or something like that. And then they said we had spinal meningitis. And then this nurse said you had none of that, you were poisoned. So, and that's what and I lived.
Wow.
I can remember one night when, this is what I was going to tell you, when a guy by the name, oh, God, I know his name, seen I had that on that paper. I could hear him say, get Brownie, get Brownie. And I was like, it's all it was a sheet of tempered wood, just probably plywood, I don't remember. But I could hear him, get Brownie. Cornelius Soprano? No, that wasn't Cornelius. He was from Secaucus. He's a guy that we had put off the ship because he couldn't talk when he got excited. Stuttered. You'd never get a word out of him. So we had him put off the ship. Cornelius Soprano from Secaucus. This guy was, I can't think of his name now, but I knew him good too. So I went off, they come and they said, Brownie, he's having a heart attack, he's going to die. So the first thing I went over and I said, get up, don't pull no, it's not time to go to bed. He said, I want you to write a letter to my mother. Get your ass up and write it yourself. That's the way I did business.
Mm-hmm.
So I said to the guy, put him on the cot. Go get the ambulance. Take him right down to 42nd Annex Hospital in Yokohama. Next thing I know, he called me. He wanted me to go visit him. And they sent him home. I had a couple guys sent home. I can't tell you about why. No way, no shit. I'll tell you after we shut that off.
Mm-hmm.
So it's time to close that anyhow, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
For today.
Okay.
Is that all right with you?
Yep, that's fine.
And then I'll look for to go further, and I'll look for notes, and you'll make me a copy of that, and I'll play that and play the other one.
Sure.
I don't want to keep repeating myself.
Okay. All right. Good job.
But I will tell you the story, not on that.
Okay, I'll turn it off. So we're done for today.
Yeah.
Okay.